Hello everyone and welcome to a spectacular game from round 2 of this year's Tata Steel Masters edition. It is Anish Giri versus Gukesh, and in the first round Anish drew his game against Caruana and Gukesh lost his game to Ding Liren, the game that we've already shown. But this game, it features an incredible sacrifice that you guys will be able to find on your own, so I'm not going to spoil too much. Features a very exciting opening, the Ragozin defense, so it's not an IMSO, but okay, the second best, the Ragozin, and well, all in all, a very exciting game. Let's check it out and see what happened. Anish with the white pieces opens with pawn to d4, knight to f6 by Gukesh. We have pawn to c4, e6, and now knight to f3 going for the anti-nimzo. We have pawn to d5 and now knight to c3 and bishop to b4 going for the Ragozin defense, with bishop to g5 and now h6 challenging this bishop, and Anish captures. Now if you're wondering why capture the knight, why not just move the bishop back and keep this pin, it's very hard to do this because after bishop to h4 you can play d captures on c4, and it's very annoying for white. White can't really win this pawn back like you would in regular lines. For example, e3, you can play b5, and this is very good for black. For example, if pawn to a4, you're going to challenge the pawn, just c6, and it's never easy to get rid of this. So that's why after h6, just bishop captures on f6. If you play the Ragozin, you might find this interesting. Sometimes I play the Ragozin in blitz, sometimes people play bishop h4, and then you can just capture on c4 and be at least equal, maybe even better. So okay, queen captures on f6, we have pawn to e3, and now castles. All very standard stuff, nothing new here. We have rook to c1, d captures on c4, bishop captures, and pawn to c5. Now all main theory, we have castles and c captures on d4. And now you will see something like knight captures on d4 here, pawn captures is possible, queen captures is possible, and of course knight to e4 is possible. Knight to e4 attacking the queen is what Anish goes for. He postpones capturing on d4, queen back to e7, and now pawn to a3. Now the bishop has to move back to a5 as the e7 square has been taken by the queen, but okay, you want to put your bishop on this diagonal. So it works out. We have e captures on d4, and now rook to d8, putting the rook in front of the white queen, and usually you will see here queen to c2. But Anish plays rook to c2, and it is now, as of move 14, that we have a completely new game. It looks like a mouse slip, like if you wanted to take the queen and put on c2, but this is over the board, so obviously we are not talking about a mouse slip. And also it allows Gukesh to go for this very rapid bishop to d7. Now if you wanted to play something like b4, you couldn't, because bishop a4 is trouble for white. So of course you have to do something about that. Rook to e2 by Anish, and now bishop to c6. The bishop now also on this beautiful diagonal, and once the dark square bishop comes to b6, will also occupy this diagonal, and Gukesh will wield a very deadly bishop pair. So queen to c2, now getting off of that d file, we have bishop to b6, and now rook f to e1. And here a most complicated position occurs, and it's not easy to spot what to actually play, and it's not easy to develop your pieces here. To give you what black should play, black absolutely must play bishop to d5. Interestingly, everything other than bishop to d5 loses the game. And for example, bishop to d5, you have to counter this very strong bishop because there's too much pressure on this e6 pawn. And now, for example, if bishop captures on d5, rook captures knight to c3, you will move the rook to d6. This is how you tackle all this pressure along the e file. And now even d5 will not be an issue because black can just continue development, something that black will definitely struggle to do otherwise. So if d captures on e6, you will trade a pair of rooks, play f captures, and you will have this isolated pawn. And okay, we play some like queen, knight to d5, attack the queen and the bishop, queen to c5, trade queens, let's say captures. You can even capture on b6, and one of the positions that is possible from all the way move 18 that, well, black should be able to hold, but it's much easier to play with white, as black has the isolated e pawn and the doubled b pawn. But even though this isn't spectacular for black, it's the best black can do from this position. Everything else straight out loses the game. And Gukesh played king to h8, and it's not easy to see why this loses the game, but you guys will have the honors. Feel free to pause the video here and try to find the absolute best move for Anish while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on going for an all-out sacrificing attack. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight e to g5, and there is no defense against this. The threat is of course queen to h7 checkmate, and the only way to tackle this is to capture the knight. You can't play f5. If you play pawn to f5, then your e6 pawn is just dead. I mean, rook captures on e6, and now your entire position just crumbles. There's absolutely nothing you can do here. You can even give up this knight, next play knight h4, knight to g6 check. I mean, nothing works for black here. So of course Gukesh had to capture. He played h captures on g5, but now look at this, rook captures on e6. Very important in between move, and the reason why it's so important is because it takes away the e7 and f6 squares from the black queen. Without the control of these two squares, the black queen cannot keep an eye on the g5 pawn. So f captures on e6, there really isn't anything better. Rook captures on e6, and now, like I said, you cannot keep an eye on this g5 pawn. If you play queen to f8, knight captures on g5, threatens checkmate, and there's no good way to defend against this. If queen to g8, you're just going to play queen g6, now threaten this. And if bishop to e8, stopping this, you can just capture. Rook captures also opens up an attack on the black queen, but it doesn't really matter. If rook captures, you're just going to deliver a check and to checkmate the black king this way. So after rook captures on e6, Gukesh said, all right, I have to do something. Queen captures on e6. He did win a lot of material for this, but unfortunately his pieces are too undeveloped to do anything about the position. Bishop captures on e6, and now bishop captures on f3. This is a very important attacker, so of course Gukesh eliminates it, but Anish does not capture back, even though he could. He just plays queen to f5. He wants to play queen to h3 with check, and that of course will be checkmate once the bishop blocks and queen captures. So bishop to e4, the only move that blocks checkmate. Now if you play queen to h3, you can block with bishop to h7. So queen captures on e4, and now rook captures on d4. This only makes it easier for Anish to finish the game, but I will even show what happens with absolute best defense. If rook to e8, okay, now the queen can't really go anywhere because the bishop would hang. You're gonna play h4, and there's no, it's the only winning move, but it's not a difficult one to find because everything just wins. You have so many squares now where you are able to go after the black king. Of course, if captures, then queen will capture. If you advance the pawn, doesn't really matter, you're just gonna capture with the queen. Still you defend the bishop, and you are still threatening to go for checkmate. So at some point rook will have to capture bishop here. Let's say knight to d7, you don't care, you're just gonna play h captures and g5. Now g6 is coming, or even just a straight queen to h4 checkmate. Rook captures on e6, you will have to play this, queen captures, and now look at this, you have to play something like rook to d8 to defend the knight. But I mean, you can play pretty much anything. You can advance the pawns. Black has no moves here. I mean, no moves whatsoever. You can't move the knight. Once you move the knight, okay, you don't want to play g6 to allow knight to f6, but you're not going to play g6 unless black moves the knight, and black cannot do this. You cannot move the rook because then the knight hangs, and what's the bishop going to do? There's really not much for the bishop to do. I mean, it's a very, very sad position. So instead, after queen captures on e4, rook captures on d4 was played, but now the very nice queen to f3. Again, threatening checkmate and also preventing checkmate, because now Gukesh was also planning to checkmate the white king. So pawn to g4, now comes queen to f8 with check, king to h7, bishop to f5 with check, king to h6, and now bishop to c2, stopping checkmate and leaving black without a single move. So it was in this position on move 27 that Gukesh resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. How the game could progress, it's very hard to say because black does not have a move. You cannot develop anything. If you go back with the rook to maybe try develop your pieces, you will get checkmated. Just queen to f4 check, and now it doesn't matter what you play. If you go down the board, then just queen to f5 check, and now if you go up the board, this is checkmate, so you have to go down the board. G3 check, king h3, and queen to h5 will be checkmate. And if you don't do this, it doesn't really matter. If after queen to f4 check you go, instead of queen to h5, you can play g5. Then of course queen to f6 check, king to h5, king to h5, queen to g6 check, king h4, and now queen to h6 will be checkmate. So yeah, Brilliant stuff by Anish. I have no idea how much of it is preparation, because he really took Gukesh out of preparation with this rook to c2 move. But I mean, you still had to find all of this, and then after Gukesh made the losing king h8 after knight to e to g5, the position just crumbles. So truly spectacular stuff by Anish. There were some very cool games in this round as well, so I will try to cover as many of them, but I thought we'd start it off with this one. So yeah, there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tough start for Gukesh, 2 losses in a row, but it's still early in the event. He might still bounce back, so we'll see what happens. I would like to thank randomfile.net, Jimbo, Robert Kiefer, Duitran, and Ravishing Reptiles YouTube for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Tata Steel tournament until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.